Joining us to discuss on the Nigerian Startup Act 2022 is Mr. George Ferrami. He's a practice lead, Hey Innovation and Co-Creation Hub. Thank you so much, Mr. Ferrami, for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, we can see clearly that this act is based on the council rather, is based on the Startup Act. So if you could walk us through some of the highlights of the act itself for the people that are not quite familiar with the Nigeria Startup Act, so we can have an understanding of what the act is all about that necessitated the inauguration of this council that will oversee the implementation of the act.
Okay, I think as quick as possible. What the president has done today really speaks to the heart of the Nigerian Startup Act. And that's to say that there has to be set up a council that oversees the duties and the obligations that help us build upon the passing of the act itself as an event. So in the council that has just been set up, the NITDA as an agency is going to serve as the secretariat for the council, and that is instrumental to every other thing that is involved with the Nigerian Startup Act. And I'll mention a few of them now. One is the creation of the startup portal. You find out that majority of startups usually approach the Corporate Affairs Commission when they want to register the organization. You want to patent a technology, they approach NOTAP or the Ministry of Trade and Investment. They want to participate in sandboxes, they approach the Central Bank of Nigeria. One of the provisions of the Nigerian Startup Act is to provide a one-stop portal where startups can approach. And then, depending on whatever area of the country or whatever sector of the economy you're leveraging technology, then you're able to do that. Now, that sort of portal has a coordinator that has to be appointed by the council. You see in the Nigerian Startup Act something that you also call like a consultative forum, which is a forum of venture capitalists, technology entrepreneurs, technology enthusiasts, people who are working within that space, to sort of form a forum that when government wants to put out a policy, they're able to engage with that forum on how that policy or how that intended policy affects the entire ecosystem. This consultative forum also has to be set up by the Secretariat. Another provision of Nigerian Startup Act, which is much more important, I think majority of tech enthusiasts in Nigeria will be interested in, is the fund. So there is a 10 billion naira fund that is provided by the Nigerian Startup Act, which is going to be domiciled in the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority as a fund manager, right? This fund is also tied to the council. So when it comes to implementation of the Nigerian Startup Act in itself, it almost appears as though the first thing that needs to be done when it comes to implementation is setting up this council. And I think what Mr. President has done today in setting up this council, you see that on that council, you have the central bank governor, the ministry, the Minister of Communication and Digital Economy, the Minister of Trade and Investment, the Minister of Finance, a number of ministers that are crucial to technology growth and ecosystem growth. You also have on that council 4 members of the Consultative Forum, who are going to be venture capitalists, startup founders. A number of them who have been proposed to be on this council are people who are very, very familiar with Nigerian Startup Act and were even a crucial part of the process of co-creating that bill with the Nigerian ecosystem. So in a nutshell, I think that where we are headed with the implementation of Nigerian Startup Act by Mr. President setting up this council is a good place. It is now if you permit me to say, I think it's now the responsibility and the obligation of entrepreneurs who are in technology ecosystem, venture capitalists, educationists, people who are working on innovation within the academia space and HEIs to now begin to engage the council formally. Because now that the council has been set up, there's literally so much work to do.
I'm happy you mentioned some of the sectors that this is directed at. If you could, so do you see this more like as a silver bullet to some of the things we've been talking about in terms of support for SMEs and startup acts and startup companies?
Silver bullet is a long shot, right? But you can be sure that this sets the pace for the momentum to be. Look at what Mr. President said in this speech that you guys just showed. Nigeria has been raising almost 20 to 25% of the fund that comes to Africa for technology ecosystem and for startups, for innovation everywhere on the continent. And this is very, very crucial. So setting up this council, or let me track back a bit, passing the act, and then going ahead to set up the council will then continue to lead into the kind of policy that you want to see. Again, I think maybe even much more importantly is that there are some times that you see over the last couple of years, for example, policies being announced. The CBN, for example, announced the ban on cryptocurrency, and then you see the SEC announce that they are now going to be considering digital assets or crypto assets as part of financial asset that you can actually trade. That's kind of, I would say, conflicts in policy conflict is something that seeks to be addressed by this council, because if you're going to now put up a policy that affects the technology ecosystem, it has to be as part of the provisions that this council has made for the next maybe 3 months or every quarter. So this is a good thing. Let me put it like that. Is it a silver bullet? If you, as a policy wonk, right? If you ask me, in the technology space, there's still a lot more that needs to be done. But we have to acknowledge that this is a very good starting point, and that this dovetails into a lot of things that we cannot begin to see. Because again,
yes.
To just say as a final word, right? If you have a question,
just go ahead. Just to conclude your thoughts.
Guaranteed. Yeah, one thing that is guaranteed by the establishment of this council is much more collaboration between technology ecosystem partners and the government by the establishment of this council. And a lot of things are possible when that continues to happen in any government, in any society.
Quite insightful. Thank you so much for your thoughts. And of course, we're looking at that. My eyes, personally, I look at it 10 billion and what it can do across the sectors. There's a lot to do. So let's see how this plays out.
More, right?
There's a lot. There's a lot to talk about. Unfortunately, we don't have so much time to explore this. But we invite you again to explore the subject matter, since we are very clear on where this is going. Thank you so much, Mr. Jude Ferrami, the practice lead of Hair Innovation Co-Creation Hub. Thank you for joining us on News Across Nigeria.
Thank you very much for having me.